We reconvene the open meeting, the open meeting via remote access. YouTube link will be posted to town website. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing to honor our servicemen and women, both here and abroad, past and present, and most important, please, let's just remember what's going on in our country right now, and we're all together here, and we will get through it. Just bow your heads, please.
And don't forget the medical professionals.
And the medical
Please.
professionals, yeah. Everyone involved. Thank you. Okay, no appointments, new business, COVID-19 update.
Okay, so just to give the board an update on where the town's at with our COVID-19 response. I think many of you, and it's been shared online and on the website, there was an article today in Dartmouth Weekly talking about the town's response and how to be aware, but it mentions some statistics in there that I think were beneficial to some of the public that have been asking for it. So I urge people to go to Dartmouth Weekly and read that article. An update on the town staffing. You saw there was a memo that went out, so as of yesterday, we are working, all staff are working remotely. Some are logging in, some have taken work home to do, but we currently have all the town's staff working. We're open for business as usual, with the exception of the public being able to enter the building. So we've urged, all departments have made it clear on their websites that how to, if there's packets that need to be dropped off, or information or applications that need to be dropped off in hard copy, how to do that. There's been a drop-off box out front set up, and also the staff and department heads are in communication constantly with their staff to make sure that work is getting done. So that's so far has worked out well. In addition, we're taking some of the staff that deal mostly with the public and assigning them some other duties. For instance, one of the requests that came in was congregating at parks and beaches, and how can the town assist with kind of keeping people from congregating and practicing social distancing. So we're using some of the staff to go out and monitor those locations and let the Board of Health and the police department know if there are any issues. Also, our own DCTV staff here are assisting the Council on Aging with outreach. We've really tried to find responsibilities and tasks for all staff so that we're all up and running. Additionally, there's been a lot of requests about the pay-as-you-throw bags, and talking with DPW, they're going to put in their website so people can contact the DPW office, and if they do not want to go to the store, or if they're unable to, they can send in a check to the DPW office and they will mail them the bags. So I urge the public, if there's an issue with not wanting to go out to stores, contact the DPW office and they will make arrangements to take payment and mail the bags to them. In addition, we've been having weekly meetings of our instant command system response team. Those have been very beneficial. Every Friday morning, a number of staff review the town's COVID response, sharing information, sharing what's information at the state level. It's been very effective with all the staff communicating. Health Director Chris Michaud has been spearheading that effort. It's been really successful and really informative for all the staff. So the town is sending a clear, consistent message townwide, all the staff who are asked for any information related to COVID. They've also updated their website, so it's a COVID-19 website on our town page, which has the most up-to-date information that the town has. So we urge people to go there and for any information. So that's where we were at with COVID-19. That's the government staffing update. Now, in addition to that, looking at the future and the economy, in light of what could happen, we're not sure how long this sheltering will go on, or how long the economy is going to take a dip because of this sheltering. So working with our Director of Budget and Finance, Greg Barnes, we've drafted a memo asking or requiring that departments freeze any non-essential spending. That includes hiring of permanent positions as well. So there's a memo, a draft memo to you in your packet that's talks about this hiring and spending freeze and what is required of staff and departments. One edit I have in here in the second paragraph, it should read, the freeze affects all operating spending with the exception of payments for existing contracts. It should be comma debt service. In discussions with Mr. Barnes, we felt that that needs to be added. And then that is the only addition. So the Finance Committee has reviewed this draft memo. They've voted to approve it. Now it's here before the board tonight for their review and approval.
Mr. Tattelbaum.
I just want to just step back to the initial comment about the COVID-19, the committee and response team and our Board of Health. I received an awful lot of calls, texts, and emails regarding reporting of cases.
So did we all.
Right. No, great, and I,
And rightfully so.
absolutely. And I would like to make a comment on, first and foremost, our Health Director, Chris Michaud. There's no better person we'd want to have in charge of this whole operation, and the staff put around him along with Sean. The man is competent, qualified, completely committed, but he follows protocol. The protocol has always been, through all these different kinds of other viruses, that it's a county thing, it's a private thing, and you don't put the numbers out. Well, he held on to that for a while because his number one priority was preserving the integrity of the individuals. And it became apparent over time that people needed to know the number because we were accused of, I was personally accused of, what's going on here is a deception.
Hiding.
And we really have, 500 cases and we're not telling you, we're lying to you. I mean, that sort of comment, which was so far from the truth for what Chris was doing. We talked and adjusted, and I have to commend him and his Board of Health for doing what they've done. The integrity involved there and the way they handle themselves is, I'm just so impressed and proud that he's part of our team and he's running this thing, and I think that it evolved into something that really should have over time in a way that was really quite professional. And I'm happy that where we ended up where we are right now, in a really bad situation, and feel comfortable that people in charge of where they are. So that's my comment on
And
that.
that information is public now.
Right.
Dartmouth, the Dartmouth paper, news, the Dartmouth News, they have it.
Well, that article's
it
on the
was,
website as well.
Yeah, it came in on my email this afternoon late. So, and that will be, at least once a week, we'll update that, maybe every day if we have to. But I speak to Chris now every single day, and ditto to what you've said, David. We are so happy to have someone of his stature and his dedication. He's here every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. The man is incredible, and thank you, God, for having him on our side.
And his whole team.
Yeah, without a doubt. But I did want to also talk about this issue that you talked about, kids, young adults at Round Hill drinking and having a grand old time, and in good-sized numbers. I can't imagine where are the parents?
Exactly.
I implore the parents right now to find out where your kids go. It's their lives. Please, it's not a joke. It's imperative that you know where they are. And then, because we got another issue yesterday and a couple of days, adult children playing golf at one of our golf clubs that were supposed to be closed by order of the governor, and emails from our Board of Health to their membership that we had to have the police go there and chase them off. The adult children, where are they from? Please, everyone, this is very serious. Your life is at stake. Be careful. And I'm going to take a little thing from Governor Raimondo. Governor Raimondo said this: everybody in each household should have a little booklet And every night that they come home, that they sit down and they write where they went, who they met, what time is it, what time did they meet them. Every day, every person in the house, the children, the parents, every day do that. And God forbid that one of these people are infected, they can find these other people that could be also infected, and they can find them rapidly. They have a system. So I implore you also, it takes a couple of minutes. Jot down those things, and you could save somebody's life. Thank you.
Can I make a comment, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Gracie.
Kind of piggybacks on on the first thing you were talking about with the people partying down at Round Hill and everything. I want to make it clear to people, you know, this virus does not have legs, okay? It's incapable of moving from one place to another unless it's carried. The way it's carried is by a human host. If people stopped mingling and stopped going out in public and stopped being close to other people, this whole virus problem could be over in 14 days, because that's the incubation time. Those that already have it would be clear in 14 days, and those that don't have it wouldn't get it. That's something for people to think about, as this thing goes on possibly months and months and months. The only reason that could possibly happen is because people are breaking the rules and not staying away from other people, whether it be the 6-foot rule or the 10-people rule, or just ignoring it altogether, as people are doing if they're going down and partying on Round Hill Beach. So it's just something for people to think about. Follow by the rules, and the sooner you do that, the sooner this will all be over, and the sooner the economy can get back to normal, and people can go back to the work and everything else. And David
Thank-
can open his store.
Thank you, thanks, Mr. Gracie, and David can open the store, yes. Anyone else? Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, I'm not one to tell a parent what to do with their, you know, how to raise their kid or what to tell their kid, because that's an individual thing. There has to be common sense in this. People have been home for 10, 14, 21 days, and the weather's starting to break, and people are starting to get out of the house, to go in their yards, and at least, or take a walk. And the last thing we need is people driving by yelling at people walking, telling them to go back in their homes. Or people or people yelling, or people writing on social media and taking pictures of people walking with their family and posting that, you know, look at these people, they're doing things wrong. You know, this pandemic has created social enforcement people. You know, they're not cops. And I don't want to use the word social enforcement cops, because that's an insult to the police department and the first responders. These are people who've taken it upon themselves to choose to be, they're going to be everybody's watchdog. Well, you know something? I don't believe it. It's the same thing with the numbers. I supported the COVID-19 response team for withholding the numbers per the request of the Mass Department of Health. Most of the communities in the Commonwealth honored that request, and I would say probably was more 50-50, that some did, some didn't. All around us, we didn't. We were getting pressure to release those numbers. I received a phone call, my only one phone call on this issue. Received a couple of emails, and of course, you know, I'm on social media, so I get all that. The one phone call I received was from an ex-cop in this town, who asked me how come the town wasn't releasing the numbers. And I explained to him and posed this question to him: if there was 1, 5, 50, or 500 cases in this town, would knowing the number change the way you are dealing with this now? He said yes. I said, how would that change? He says, well, the lower the number, the more I can go out. Stupidity. And thank God he's an ex-cop. Okay?
Do we know who he is?
I'm not gonna give his name out. That's the mentality that's out there, is that the lower the number, the better I can be out. You have to treat this like everybody has it. Okay? And, you know, it's just, it's just amazing to me that, you know, this is this is like this. You have people that are out there who have just absolutely rat-holed them in their house. And now you have people that you have, you know, wanting to make sure that the police are at the borders to stop cars from New York and New Jersey from coming into town, or at least to telling them what to do, you know? There's a crazy mentality out there that's just absolutely taken over some people, and it's actually pretty frightening, you know? And I don't want to infringe upon anybody's freedom or whatever they choose to do, but this has to be common sense, people. It's really is common sense. You know, and you can take a quick look around this room. There's only 2 people in this room wearing masks. I'm wearing this mask because my wife asked me to. My wife has asthma. She is a prime candidate for something, if something should happen with, if I should happen. I'm the only one that leaves this house. My business demands that I be there because I have to provide housing and housing support for people. And I'm there. I'm here because I'm also a town official. And I'm the only one that goes out grocery shopping. And yes, I have plenty of toilet paper and paper towels. Okay? But, I mean,
That's where it all went.
no, no, I just the share that I have. And it's just following all the proper ways, what the CDC tells you to do. And I think that's the most important thing, is you let the experts, listen to the experts, and you should try to follow what the experts have to say. That's it.
So if you're not following the protocol, knock it off. Please, knock it off.
No, the thing to say is if you're not following protocol, try to follow the protocol. That's the better way to say it.
I like the knock it off. But anyway, so new town election date discussion?
Excuse me. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the freezing of
Oh,
non-essential
we have to vote on that?
spending.
Yeah, okay.
Frank, somehow I knew you'd get to that one.
I'm a focused guy, you know? Absolutely.
Okay.
I saw that earlier on the agenda. I like that one.
What was
So we
that?
have a motion,
Maybe even a little bit more.
Second.
we have a second. All those in favor of signing it?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? Let's sign it.
Maybe we get some,
Congratulations,
maybe we get some of the essential spending
One
too,
thing,
and I'd be
while
really
we're
happy.
still on the COVID-19 information, so there's a select board meeting scheduled for Monday, the 13th. It's on the calendar, it's a joint meeting with the planning board. So we still want to continue to do that. They've been meeting by Zoom. Does this board want to meet remotely? Also, we've got to kind of get back into the business as usual, so we need to have the public or entities come in to present to the board. Is that we can do a dry run. The finance committee's been good doing meetings in Zoom. They've seemed to work really well. The planning board's been doing Zoom meetings with members of the public that have worked out pretty well. So is that something that the board is interested in doing?
I would say probably not the next meeting, but the meeting after,
Okay, so I'll,
the
I'll-
You still want
27th.
to have that joint meeting?
Yeah, that's gonna be more than 10 people in a room. I don't think we should be doing that.
No. Well, I mean, I guess the planning board would be via Zoom.
they would be via Zoom. correct.
Either that or we postpone that meeting till a later date.
Well, and that's coming up later in the meeting is town meeting
The
preparation.
articles, yeah, it's for the
So
articles.
we need to review the articles.
Okay. No, I understand that, but planning board, well, we'll see.
If we don't like what they say and they're on video, we can always shut it off.
So the planning board's maintaining their schedule for approval of the articles and,
Right.
All right.
you know, what we decided last year was that they would meet with this board prior to them voting on their articles in case there's questions or
Yeah.
comments.
Would there be a separate monitor for them?
I'll work with DCTV. I talked to, Peter briefly beforehand and he thinks that we'll be able to do it, through Zoom on that monitor.
Give it a try.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
I was wondering-
if it's just a joint meeting with the planning board via Zoom for next meeting, that's fine. It'll be like, almost like a trial run to go into, for business as usual after the, on the 27th.
Okay, so you want to meet, just so I'm clear, here live and then have the planning board on Zoom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I was also wondering why, as things have gone on, why we haven't considered meeting remotely.
we should,
That's why I'm bringing it up
Right.
tonight.
we truly, we see everyone else doing it.
Right.
Why jeopardize
We should set the-
ourselves,
we should set an
our
example.
family?
Yep.
The less we're telling everybody to stay at home, so let's be good representative of that
We could try
suggestion.
it.
Yeah,
I'm not only getting older by the minute, but I have underlying conditions, as does my wife, and so the safer we should
well,
be,
you're
the
a lot
better.
older than me, so.
No, I'm not. No one's older. Methuselah wasn't older than you.
So we'll meet here live, and then the meeting, next scheduled meeting after that's April 27th. So if things are still the way they are, we'll meet remotely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just get the instructions to us early.
Great,
We'll do a dry run before.
That's
so
what we need.
great. All right, great, thank you. Ms. Maderas?
Good evening. I don't know, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right,
A little muffled, but
all right. So we're looking at doing a new election, picking a new date for the postponed election that would have occurred today. So I've kind of done a chart here, and June 23rd would be the best date, and I'll give you the reasons. I would like to request a temporary relocation of our polling locations for this election, because I don't know if we're gonna have all of our locations available to us if this goes longer than May 4th. So if we go with June 23rd, I've already checked with the school department, and we would be able to put like 2 precincts in each school.
Great.
With the exception of one, because I don't think the UMass students will be coming out and vote, so I'll be able to put 3 in one of them. And this way, we'd also be able to use less poll workers, because I don't think we're gonna get the amount of poll workers as it was gonna be for April 7th. I wasn't getting my poll workers, so I can, if I have 2 precincts in one, I can use 1 warden for 2 precincts for this. So that's what I was looking for. And then we can also talk about changing polling location hours. The law states we have to be open for a minimum of 4 hours, and you'd have to open no later than 12 noon. I was looking to see if we could make it 8 AM to 6 PM for that day, so that you're not putting them out there for, I mean, it's that, if we open the polls at 7, everybody's here between 5:30, 6 o'clock, so kind of buy people a little bit of time in the morning. And if we close at 6, we'll be ending probably by the time the election would have been closing at 8 o'clock. And if we agree on any of that, then we would need to post a new warrant. And by doing, if we go with the Tuesday, June 23rd, we would need to, the last day to register to vote would be June 12th, and everything would have to be mailed out. If we do this all tonight, then I have plenty enough time to send notice to all the households with voters to notify of the polling changes, and the election date and the times. Do we know if any of these extra things are gonna be reimbursed by FEMA? Because I need to start logging any extra items, anything that would be reimbursable to the town.
For elections, I'm not
because we're having to
sure. That's a good
change-
question. I'll find
I
out.
mean, we're having to buy extra stuff. I'm still waiting for hand gel to come in, so
Yeah,
hopefully by this date, I will have it.
yeah, that's a good point. Most likely, I would think, but you never know.
I've purchased pens and different things so that the poll workers won't, I've got gloves for them, I've got more gloves coming to make sure I have enough. I am trying to get masks for the poll workers to make sure they're protected. I don't think I'm gonna get like regular masks, but at least try to get some of the homemade masks for them. And I have it so that there's new pens, I've got bins, so every person will, my poll worker will have a tong. They'll be able to hand the pen so the voter can take the pen, go vote, drop the pen in the bin, and put their ballot, and we have Clorox wipes to be wiping the terminals, wipes to wipe the computer terminal, that's safe for those, and the handicap machine, so I think we're in good shape for the election, and we've got everybody protected, hopefully. And hopefully it's passed by then, but at least everybody will be safe.
And push the fact that absentee ballots and,
That,
Yep.
they can continue to do at this
Yep.
point.
Yep.
It's on the website.
Yep.
They're actually allowed to put in for an early vote by mail, so they can either request the absentee if it's to do with COVID-19, or request the the early vote application. They're both on our website. Either one is fine.
So it looks like at this time, those, the May dates you have, we probably could never.
No,
It's just
because
not gonna work.
If you-
June looks like the best time for us.
Right, because when you, if you start with May like say you wanted May 19th, you're still gonna fall into the early May dates with stuff, which means if May 4th, we're still not ready,
No,
you're gonna be in trouble.
doesn't look like that at this
And
point.
the only way to get the schools right now, June 23rd would be the best day. That's what they
Yeah.
told me.
June, that looks good. Mr. Tattlebaum.
I would like to make a motion that we postpone the election to Tuesday, January 23rd, last day to register to
June
vote.
23rd.
June 23rd?
Yeah.
And last day to register is June 12th.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we got a motion to, which is June
23rd.
23rd. And we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. So we'll postpone it till June 23rd.
Okay, and what about, we'll also need a vote if we want to use the schools. So we need to
Yes,
vote.
I think that it's a great idea.
My,
putting-
my looking at it is middle school would be precinct 2 and 5.
Uh-huh.
DeMello would be 6 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
The high school, I would do 7 and 9. And Potter School would be precinct 1, 3, and 4.
Great.
And I did tell the schools if they need us to, because that was one of the things from the state, is if we did use like the schools or something, how, you know, I told them we'd work something out, getting the schools disinfected, cleaned after the election. So
Mhm.
they didn't tell me anything about that, but that is still.
So we're gonna get that posted,
Yeah, once
on
we
our
have-
website,
Yep,
um,
that'll be
and
tomorrow.
I guess maybe even the school's website.
I'm
We're gonna
sorry?
use the school's website. We're gonna use their facilities.
Yeah, they won't, people
No.
won't go for the election to the school sites.
No, DCTV will have it, I'll have it, I'll make
Uh-huh.
sure it's in the newspapers.
Okay.
Technically, we have to just post it on our website.
Okay,
And however else, so I'll make sure it gets out. They're all gonna get a postcard, stating the time, the date change, the location
precinct
change.
changes, yeah.
And now what do we wanna do with the hours?
Should we think about even shorter hours?
That's up to you. We gotta have a minimum of 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't know if the weather's nice, things are kinda better, do you wanna leave 8 and maybe go less? I don't know if people are gonna be
But
back to
the
work.
reason why you open early and stay later is, not because you have to, but people vote before or after work.
That's why I figured like 8 to 6, you're kinda, okay, you know, I don't know.
Hopefully people are working by then.
That's what I was thinking, so that's why I went till 6, figuring somebody who gets out, 8 o'clock, hopefully,
Yeah.
you know, they can run in at that point.
So what's the hours again? 8 to,
8 to 6, I mean, unless you wanna go 9 to 7, I don't know which way.
yeah, Mr. Talbot.
Motion to use Clerk Maderis's
9 to
plan
7,
to use the schools and to have the hours from 8 to 6, voting hours.
Mr. McDonald?
I think the better time for if people are working, the 9 to 7 is a lot better. I think it
Or 9 to 7.
Gives them that extra hour at night.
gives them the extra hour at the end, but I mean, instead of
What
8
about
to
before
6.
working? At 9 o'clock, the people are working.
Right, but they're out by 5, hopefully, and they got 2 hours instead of 1 hour to vote. It's just a convenience thing.
Are we jamming up too many people in that end of time, where we could spread them, would it be better to spread them out more?
Well, I think that you thought it through, and based on the hours and experience, that you like 8 to 6.
Either 8 to 6 or 9 to 7, I'm just trying to figure out what would work best for the people without going from 7 AM
Right,
to
right,
8 PM.
right.
Somehow narrow it down
Yeah,
a little bit.
Right,
Um,
definitely want to reduce it.
And hopefully we'll be up to, you know, allowing more than the 10 people in at a time. I mean, we're gonna have to monitor it and go by whatever the laws are stating at that point for people.
I think in past
We're still doing
performances,
that,
our
we're in
election
trouble.
results, early on in the morning, you know, we did open early, but the large numbers were in the afternoon and early evening.
Yeah.
And from my experience over the last quite a few years.
Yeah.
So motion,
We haven't settled the
Mr.
hours.
Tattle- Yeah.
8 to 6 or 9 to 7.
What's everybody's thoughts?
I like the 8 o'clock.
I like 8 to 6.
I like the 9 to 7.
guess we have to have a vote, huh?
Well, let's see if Chief Levesque knows what would work better for his officers, because we have to use them for the polling locations, so.
Yeah, Either one, I mean,
Okay,
you know, for us, we talked about either 8 or 9.
Yep.
They work equally as well.
okay, so at least, but that way we have another input, which works.
Just had one question. You have a history, so can you tell us what the history would be about the number of people coming, like at 6 o'clock, at 7 o'clock? When do you see the numbers really taper down at night?
Usually, probably by 7 in a town election, it'll taper out. Usually in the morning, you'll get, if it's a good day, you're gonna get your seniors out earlier. People going in before work. It all depends.
It's a very different time, even though we can look at what past performance is, but
It's hard to say what's
Yeah,
gonna happen this
yeah,
time,
yeah.
whether,
all depends on the weather also.
it depends how
So-
many people end up doing an absentee ballot or an early vote ballot by mail.
Do you have
You know, so
any
you may
numbers
not-
at this point now? Do you have a lot?
The other day, I sent out a little over 100 ballots, and I have some to go out again this week.
Because that's interesting, that number is gonna rise, I'm sure.
So I think people, if they have that option, they will.
Mhm. Well, I
If you
don't know,
go eight,
yeah.
8 to 7, then you reduce it by 2 hours only. 2 hours, 7,
Yeah, that's a good compromise.
8 to 7.
You keep the 8 of what they want, and the 7 for what we want, that's.
I think,
So you like 9? Do we have,
I think the morning for 8, I think it's important for people
Yeah.
voting before they go to work,
Yeah.
8. And there'd be 6 or 7.
I like that.
Got a coin?
so 8 to 6 was your suggestion?
That was mine.
Yeah.
I figured that people still coming out,
Okay.
if things weren't fully back, people would still have the flexibility.
So let's make make a motion, see if it passes.
My motion would be that we use the schools and that the polls are open from 8 to 6.
It's the same thing you tried before, nobody
Right.
seconded it.
We still-
Okay,
we
8
didn't
to
get a
7.
second. Okay,
8 to 7, I'll second that.
Okay.
okay.
I can live with that.
8 to 7, right? All those in favor, 8 to 7?
Aye.
Opposed?
That was rough.
8 to 7 it is.
Okay.
All right. So Sean will just, send me down all the votes, and
Yes.
then I can go forward with that. Did you need me for town meeting? I just need to know if you want me for anything with town meeting, or,
What time?
Yeah, maybe stick around for a minute.
Yeah, that's the next thing up. so.
It's gonna be in November, right?
Yeah.
We'll have one.
There's
Thank
only
you,
gonna be one
Elaine.
this year, the fall
By the
one's
way,
gonna be both.
Thank you very much. So, town meeting preparation update?
Yes, so, in light of what's going on, I sent you a summary of the latest legislation that was passed. That basically, as it relates to town meeting, while there's a state of emergency, town meeting can be extended beyond June 30th, but I'm not sure if there'll be a state of emergency through June. Toward that end, the other option is the moderator can postpone the meeting or continue the meeting to a new date, within 30 days of the original, town meeting. We don't know what's happening right now, but in either case, the warrant needs to be completed on schedule. So, we can still we can kind of go through April here and, think about postponing the town meeting date and working with the moderator to decide on the date and seeing kind of how things are panning out. But I just wanted to keep the board informed that, we do still have to meet the, normal schedule for the warrant. And I just wanted to go over some of those dates with you all so that, you can be aware that they're not changing.
One question, Sean, do we have a handle at all at the size of the warrant at this point in time?
In talking with, Mr. Barnes, we've decided that we're gonna keep the warrant as minimal as possible. We could be faced with a special election, in September, but there's other articles that we can push off to the, fall town meeting as well. So, really, this is just to get the budget set, which we're looking at a level funded budget, with no increases for next year. So we really wanna keep it pared down, but there's some zoning articles that need to, go through in, this Springtown
As
meeting.
much as we can fit, move to the fall, we're gonna do.
We're gonna move,
To the
yes.
essential zone.
Great.
Correct.
Okay.
Would the special election be a different date, or would it just be part of the fall town meeting?
It's needs to be discussed.
Okay, I'd rather not spend the extra money for another election, another town meeting if we don't have to.
Right.
Yeah, do it all at the same time, sure.
And what is the date proposed for the spring town meeting right now?
We don't have a,
What
Oh,
was it
it's
supposed to be?
June 2nd.
June 2nd?
the actual one.
Yeah, the actual town meeting is currently scheduled for June 2nd. Just as it relates to the warrant, as I mentioned earlier, April 13th is the joint meeting with the planning board to review their zoning articles before they vote to approve them. Currently, we're looking at May 11th for the select board and FinCom to have a joint meeting to review the articles. And on that May 11th meeting, this board would have to vote on the articles. But I'll back up, we have a meeting on April 27th where I'll review the articles with you, just to give you a list of the articles and have, them presented. And then at that May 11th meeting with the Finance Committee, that joint meeting, they're gonna mention what their vote was on the articles, and then this board at the end would vote and sign the warrant. And the warrant would need to be to the town clerk by the 13th, which is 2 days later.
Last year's spring town meeting, there was a couple dozen warrants, articles, excuse me?
I can't remember exactly,
But
yes.
quite a few.
So we're probably looking at, we were roughly probably 10 or 12.
Okay, so substantially reduced.
Yes, well, it was actually a light town meeting
Okay.
last spring, but
Good.
yeah, so,
Okay.
but it'll be less than last year.
But whatever it is, it's not gonna be a dramatic, okay.
No, we're trying to keep it minimal in light of what's going on. We just want to get the minimum passed. And then particularly with budgets, we want to make sure that, we'll see, hopefully, as we mentioned earlier, that this state of emergency ends soon and the economy is back and rolling. Yes, fingers
Mr.
crossed.
Grace, Mr. Grace is crossing
So
his
there's no
fingers.
vote
Crossing my fingers,
necessary,
yeah.
but I just wanted to review the meeting dates and the schedule. And then as we get closer to June 2nd, we can evaluate
I
and.
think that for what it's worth, I think there would not be, we can't have the town meeting go beyond the month of June.
Mhm.
It has to be before the month of June ends. So once July hits, I think, things change.
Yeah, and you saw in the summary of the legislation, and we'd still have to be in a state of emergency in June for it to get extended past June. So they're allowing people to have their town meetings after June, but
Right.
we still have to
But
have a state of
I'm
emergency.
thinking more about vacations and summertime.
Oh, yes.
It's not
Not
a
gonna
great
be a lot of
environment to have a
vacations.
town meeting in the month of July.
Mr. Herron,
Due to the crisis we're in with COVID-19, the town meeting, the select board sets a date for articles. If anything came up that the select board needed to address, we could still add it to our town meeting. Isn't that correct?
After the warrant's been signed?
No, not after it's signed, right now. If something
Oh,
came up
yes.
that we had to address, we could now still put a warrant article on.
Correct.
Because the date is set by the select board. Okay.
Correct. So as it is now, we'll present a list of the articles,
Yes.
and not in detail on the 27th. And then, if the board wanted to add or remove at that point, we could discuss that. And then, it's really, then that sets the tone for the May 11th approval of the final warrant and signing.
all right.
So, if I may, we're gonna be prepared for town meeting. The question is, can we hold it because we can't have a public meeting?
Correct.
So it's not, the problem is, that's as simple as that's what the problem is. I was thinking more before this discussion, there was gonna be an issue about getting all this done before then, but
No, this is more discussing that, town meeting can be moved, but we need to have the warrant completed on the same schedule, and,
Right.
the warrant is gonna be pared down, than usual, so I just wanted to inform the board of that.
can we look at a meeting later in June, propose even our next meeting? Because that would give us a target, because it sounds like we have to be ready anyway.
Well, my recommendation would be, right now, the state of emergency is until May 4th. I think we are meeting, I think we should, meet, we're meeting on the 27th of April. I think we should kind of see where things are at, if it looks like
Okay.
it's gonna be lifted, or if it looks like things are gonna be dire, then we have a meeting on, May 11th to really, and that's the signing of the warrant, but that's probably a good opportunity to look at moving the date if necessary.
Thank you.
Just
police contract ratification. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, this is the memorandum of agreement between the town and the Police Brotherhood for their contract, which will extend from FY '20 to FY '22. It's been reviewed by the board, it's in your packet, and it needs to be voted on, subject to ratification at town meeting.
Mr. Herron?
I cannot vote on this issue tonight. In good conscience, people are out of work. They're not sure when they're going back to work. Our governor has told us our taxes, our reimbursement to the town is gonna be down minimum 5%. The excise tax is down, meals tax is down, fees collected in the town are down. It's just not the right time for us to be going through contract negotiations when we're asking the people at home who are out of work to pay more. I'm sorry, it's just not the right time. I was hoping we could postpone this a little further. If we do ratify this tonight, I believe that we will have layoffs in the next 2 years in all departments.
Mr. Gracie?
Yeah, I'd like to echo that a little bit. We heard tonight from our financial department that it'd be a virtual certainty that we'll have layoffs before the contract is over, and I can't support that. I don't want to see any layoffs in this town.
Mr. Tattelbaum?
I think this, for me, is a combination of emotional and legal decision that I made on it. We have been negotiating in good faith with the Police Brotherhood, and the advice that we were given tonight was that legally we can't really go back on what we've done. We could even consider asking for help from the police. My feeling is, at this point in time, that we've negotiated in good faith, but more importantly, as I sit home now, comfortable in my house, trying to help my family and citizens of this town, and we have the police out there now doing their job in the face, along with all medical workers and everybody else that does it, I could not in good conscience. We've been negotiating in good faith, and they deserve what that was negotiated. It was fair, and I'd be the first to tell them that yes, there is an increase in pay, and it is gonna cost the town, but if things turn back and turn poor over the next year or 2 years, and in 2022, that layoffs or attrition becomes mandatory in town, for it be the Police Brotherhood or teachers or all town employees, and so be it. I have faith that our economy is gonna bounce back, and the town's gonna become more efficient and do a better job, and I don't think that's gonna happen, but if it does, then at that point in time, we'll address what it's gonna cost in terms of jobs. Therefore, I think it's a fair, negotiated, legal agreement, and I'm in favor of it, and I will vote in favor.
Mr. McDonald?
Got nothing to say at this time.
Sorry?
I got nothing to say.
Oh, okay. So we need a motion.
Motion to approve the contract as presented.
Second.
So we have a motion to ratify the contract as presented, and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Okay.
3-2, it passes. Okay, Seaport Economic Council grant matching funds source.
This was brought up, so the Harbor Master and Waterways was awarded a grant for a study at Dias Landing. Part of that grant, which was $64,000, required a $16,000 match on the town's part. It was originally pending the source of Waterways Enterprise Funds, but it was brought to this board's attention that it may want to seek other funds in town to compensate for that $16,000 from enterprise funds.
because who suggested we look elsewhere?
The waterways requested that the town cover the cost.
Okay, I had a conversation with Kevin Murphy, and he said the only reason that they would not pay for it is because it would have to be approved by town meeting, and it would be too late to ask town meeting to allow them to take the money out of their enterprise fund. Other than that, he said they would gladly pay it.
Maybe you can weigh in on this.
So the matching funds need to be approved at town meeting?
If they were to come from the waterways fund.
I've never read the grant agreement, so.
No, it's
No, so if the matching funds for this grant, the $16,000 were to come from waterways retained earnings, it would have to be approved at town meeting, is that?
That would be correct, yes.
So we'd lose the grant.
Is it possible that this can come out of the reserve fund, because this is an unforeseen thing? We, we got a grant, yay, but we gotta match it. It's unforeseen.
Well, it's not really a match, it's 16, they're giving us 80.
It's a 20% match.
copay.
It's a copay.
It's like going to the doctor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like going to your proctologist.
Yeah,
Um,
very fitting. Yes.
I mean, is it possible to get it through the reserve? Because, I mean, it is an unforeseen thing. I mean,
Yes, it is, and we have had instances before where the general fund has fronted money and it's been
then let's do it.
Yeah.
reimbursed at town meeting.
Let's
We
do
have done that before, actually with waterways.
This'll be a revenue enhancer for the town, there's no
I make a
question about it.
motion, I make a motion that the town, pay the $16,000, 20% match on this grant, and that to seek the reimbursement from the general fund through the reserve fund.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to have the town pay the $16,000. And a
Question.
second,
Question. Does that
Question.
have to go through finance for that?
Yeah,
approval?
it
Yes.
has to be
Yes.
approved.
Oh, is there some kind of danger of losing this grant time-wise?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
What is that time?
well,
shortly,
hold on,
Is it-
shortly.
I can get the date that it needs a response.
No, but,
it
are
might be
we,
on here.
are we going to get,
Functional
It'd
finance,
have to go to next year, that's for sure.
are we gonna get finance committee approval in time to not lose the grant?
I said the town pay the 16,000, and then to seek reimbursement of that payment from the reserve fund.
And the finance committee meets this Thursday, I don't know if we get it on the agenda, but they meet
So
every Thursday.
you're saying without finance approval?
In other words,
Oh.
pay it, and then seek the reimbursement of the general fund
After the
through the
fact.
reserve fund
To replace the money.
to replace the money.
Does that make sense, Greg?
That way we get the grant on time.
I
Are you-
think you'd want it from the reserve.
Right.
Right, if we can get it from the reserve fund first before, without paying the general fund, that'd be great. But, like, I mean,
We
if
don't wanna-
the
we don't wanna
finance
lose the
committee is not
grant.
gonna meet in time,
Reimburse the
Yeah.
general fund, that would have to be at town meeting.
Right.
Yeah, and we don't want to lose this grant.
Yeah.
We put a lot of time and effort into
Meeting
this.
on, actually Thursday, and they're meeting next Thursday as well, so.
well, then let's go through that.
All right,
certainly,
Let's just see how we can get it from the reserve fund, period.
okay, great.
with the intent of getting the town general fund made whole at town meeting,
Right,
correct?
Right.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The Seaport Economic Council application is passed.
Yeah, let me just reiterate, it's important that we don't lose the grant, so however we have to pay for it, let's pay for it.
Exactly.
Frank,
What my motion was.
could you repeat that, Frank?
All right, lastly,
It's a good
we
deal.
have had some bridge work done on Paid Bridge. We need to
On your teeth,
announce,
Stanley?
huh?
Got some bridge work on your teeth done?
No, my teeth are good. I don't have any bridge work.
Wooden, right?
April 13th, 2020 at 7 a.m. through April 17th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Not open to vehicle traffic.
Excuse me.
DPW, they will be closing it again April 13th through the 17th. Detour signs will be out in town.
I guess we're gonna hear it again about how come we didn't take care of this one.
Oh, God, it's the same, it has nothing to do with the causeway, this is underneath the bridge, it's electrical work, it's needed, trust me.
How would you feel in July and August that the bridge doesn't work? Hello?
Yeah.
All right,
What bridge?
we need to adjourn.
Just before we go, one of the things I want to just kind of quickly address. when we had the discussion regarding people in parks and whatnot, this also has to entail, there was a, I guess, the social enforcement officers were out, on, some children playing, or people, let's just say people playing on Burgo basketball. Steve Burgo has addressed that issue. He's got signs up now, on his property saying to stay away, and he's going to be, zip tying the nets so that the basketball can't go through the hoops.
Good for him.
One shot only.
Good for
Yeah.
him.
So that'll
Short
be,
game.
so hopefully that'll eliminate, you know, somewhat, at least there's an attempt there. I mean, it's just a, because if this was December, January, I don't think we would have the people being out being an issue as much, but because it's now April, and the weather's starting to get good, it's a release of cabin fever. I know the high school had issues with people on the football field next to us. They seem to have taken care of that, except over the weekend, it happened again. And the police were called to disperse them, and they did. You know, it's just a lot of, there's a lot of things that's happening that are just, it just, we need to relax a little bit and apply some common sense to a lot of things. If you wanna look at silver linings in this issue, some of the calls that the police department normally handle, they're not handling, which is good. It's good it's good for them, and they're responding on where they need to respond to.
It's because they're not getting the calls, not because they're refusing to.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, it's not because they're
Right.
refusing to, it's just the calls aren't there.
We're at home making babies.
You know, and, well,
Sean,
out of that, or signing divorce papers.
our Board of Health makes it a point that he wants to keep all these things open. He wants people to use them.
Yes.
Just use common sense and don't break
Right.
the rules.
Right, exactly. And the other thing too is that, you know, I mean, there are some silver linings, you know, we're no longer getting complaints of traffic on Fons Corner Road. So that's always a good thing.
That is very true.
And in regards to the orange bags, okay? I know the last meeting I asked the staff to look at this, and I started to think of the reasons why without even talking. One of the things, the most important things about the pay-as-you-throw program is that it's an enterprise fund. The fund, the operations of the program works on the funds generated by the program, such as the annual fee and the bags. If there was a deficit in the enterprise fund, general funds, general tax dollars can't be used to supply that. That deficit would have to be made up by the people in the program, which means that either the bags would have to be increased or the annual fee would have to be increased to meet that fund. If you were to also not use the orange bags and you can use any bag, how would the driver and the laborer know which bag belongs to the program? You could have people who are not part of the program dump their trash with other people's, and they wouldn't know who it is. What would that do? That would increase the cost of the tonnage to dump, which would increase the cost of the program. In order to increase the cost of the program, if there's a deficit, where would it have to be? It would have to be the people who use the program would have to pay a higher cost. I had a 90-year-old woman email me, ask me about the program, and wanted to suspend it. I did not go into this whole litany as to why. All I asked her was, what kind of bags do you use and where do you live? I went and bought bags for her. She only wanted $10 worth of bags. I bought her 20. I went to Walgreens, through the drive-through. They had everything right there. I dropped it off to her. She put an envelope out there for $10. I put the $10 and I put it back in the bag. See you later.
Hopefully she didn't throw it out.
No.
John, I could use
No,
some
I told her where it was.
bags. I could use some bags at my house, Sean.
She
yeah.
goes,
I
well,
needed some
you're on
last week,
your
I
own.
should've called him.
You have the ability to get bags yourself, so we know where you get your bags from.
That's a perfect way to handle it.
Yeah.
He doesn't
So-
wanna unlock the door
But,
because he
I
gets
mean,
5
at
customers.
this point in time, at that point in time, I was trying to figure out, how can the town do this? How can the town get the bags to the people? The DPW have made an offer. Send them a check, and they'll mail the bags to you. I was even thinking about going to the point where we could set up a drive-through at the front of town hall, you know? Where you can come and get your bags. We'll bill you. You know, just tell us who you are, we'll bill you. Hopefully you give us the right name and whatnot.
I was just
You know,
My name is
but, I mean,
David
I was trying to
Tattlebaum.
think
Yeah.
of, trying to think of
Well-
different ways.
Crazy, I don't know all these-
Yeah.
We're all David Tattlebaum.
We're all, there's 42 David Talbot.
Just trying to figure out different ways of doing this, and I think the best one is that if you need the bags, call the DPW, 508-999-0740. Tell them that you need the bags, how many you need, send them a check, and they'll mail you the bags, or they'll drop it off to you. I mean, you know, I just think that's just,
Amen.
probably the best way of handling
Yeah.
it right now.
Yeah, how about gut you?
No, that's restaurant only.
I understand. All right,
Did we have any YouTube visitors tonight?
Yes, 18
YouTube?
was the highest.
18, yeah?
Yeah.
No comments?
Kevin Murphy. He wanted to know if he was doing this right, and I said yes. And then he said, thank you.
are we doing it right? Is that what he said?
No, was he doing it right, the chat?
Oh,
You gotta keep Kevin Murphy happy, huh?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good soul.
If we don't, John's gonna hear it, right?
Yeah, John's gonna hear it, bend his ear off. All right,
Motion
Motion to adjourn.
yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Meeting's adjourned.